see one of them.
Should just be waiting on John Lyons.
On the record now in case number 2025-00030, the electronic application of Lost City Renewables LLC for a certificate of construction for a 161 kilovolt non-regulated transmission line for approximately 10.5 miles in length in Muhlenberg and Logan counties. My name is Angie Hatton. I'm chair of the Kentucky Public Service Commission. Joining me today are Commissioner Mary Pat Regan and Commissioner Andrew Wood, and I believe online we have our ad hoc committee member, although I can't see it on my screen. Now I can. All right. Ad hoc committee member, commission member Phil Baker, who is Logan County Judge Executive. Can you hear us okay, Mr. Baker?
Yes, ma'am. I can hear you just fine.
Great. Thank you. We're ready to go now. As chair of the Kentucky Public Service Commission, I also serve as chair of the Kentucky State Board on Electric Generation and Transmission Siting, and I will be presiding today. Not joining us are John Lyons, who is Deputy Secretary of the Energy and Environment Cabinet and serves as proxy for Secretary Rebecca Goodman. Also not joining us is Jansen Hammock, who serves as proxy for Jeff Noel, the Secretary of Economic Development Cabinet, but this video will be made available to them, and they'll review it before we make our ruling. So at this time, I'd ask everybody to set your cell phone to silent if you haven't done so already. And Mr. Baker, if you'll just mute when you're not speaking. The hearing today is for the purpose of taking evidence in this matter. So at this time, let's have entry of appearance of counsel for the applicant.
Rebecca Price for Lost City Renewables.
Hi there, and tell us who your witnesses are today.
I have Marty Marcheterre, Shane Kelly, and David Kraus.
Okay, thanks very much. And for staff?
Wright Williams, Chair, for staff.
Right, I've been advised that public notice has been given and filed in the record. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Are there any outstanding motions beside the one I know for confidential treatment?
No, Chair. Not that
Get
I'm
that
aware
one ruled upon as promptly as possible. Is there anyone here today for the purpose of giving public comment? I don't see anyone in the courtroom, and I haven't been made aware of anybody who has given us notice that they'd like to provide comment online. Seeing no one, we'll go ahead, but I will note for the record that anybody who does wish to provide public comment may do so by following the instructions on the PSC's website, psc.ky.gov. Written comments may always be submitted by emailing psc.comment@ky.gov, and let the record show that the instructions and link to provide public comments have been posted on the website for at least the past day. Is there anything else that we need to take up before we start with evidence?
Not from this.
All right, call your first witness.
Madam Chair, I would call Marty Marcheterre.
Okay. Mr. Marcheterre, would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Please be seated. Tell us your full name and business address.
My name is Marty Marcheterre, and I'm with Copperhead Environmental Consulting, and it's 133 Walton Avenue, Lexington, Kentucky, 40508.
Okay, counsel?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Marcheterre. You said your name for the record, but would you tell us your title at Copperhead?
I'm a senior environmental planner.
And are you familiar with Lost City's application for a construction certificate for a transmission line?
Yes, I am.
And did you sponsor materials in responses to requests for information in this application?
I did.
And do you have any changes to any filed testimony?
No, I don't.
Your Honor, or Madam Chair, this witness is available for cross-examination.
Okay.
Yes,
Staff?
great. Good afternoon, Mr. Marcheterre. A few questions for you, and if there are any that you feel another witness would be better prepared to answer, just please let me know.
Sounds good. Thank you.
So first, on the application, page 2, and also in other areas in the data request, there's been discussion about a 150 and 100-foot right-of-way around the center line of the transmission line.
That's correct.
So I was wondering if you can just go into detail a bit about the explanation for the variance between the two distances at different points, though where it's 150 at some points and 100 at others.
No, it basically the applicant, their preference was 150-foot easement to just have some flexibility of siting, the transmission line poles. But, in discussions with the individual landowners, several of the landowners preferred only to give a 100-foot easement, and that was still an acceptable width.
So those were at the request of the landowners, the 100
Correct.
foot either way. All right, and in one of the data requests, there was a question about if there was any anticipated variance requested for the right-of-way or the line of the transmission line during the actual course of construction. As in, you have a plan right now, but once you actually start constructing it, if there are issues developed or seen at the time. So my question is, do you anticipate requesting either shortly before the time of construction or earlier any sort of variance to allow the transmission line to move a number of feet depending on how construction goes?
At this time, we do not expect, we don't anticipate requesting a variance, but if we do, it would just be within, the parcels where we have lease agreements. There's enough, some of these parcels are a decent size that if for some reason we thought, we'd be able to just shift it inside if we had to.
Okay. In response to the first data request, item 12, there's an attachment that shows the 3 proposed transmission line routes.
Correct.
The proposed one, and then transmission line routes B and C. Can you at first just generally discuss the course of those 3 transmission line routes and then how you ended up deciding on the proposed route?
Okay. We actually had looked along, there's an existing TVA transmission line that's to the east of our line. And that was sort of the first idea, was to, see if we could just upgrade TVA's transmission line, and we would just, travel maybe 2 miles over to connect. But after discussions with TVA, it was gonna take a substantial upgrade to the system. And basically they said it was gonna be 8 to 10 years to upgrade their existing transmission line. So we started to look for other alternatives. We looked for one that's adjacent to their line, but then after looking at it, that one's about 13 miles, and it would be, I think we had to cross 55 landowners and about 79 parcels. So that was one option. And that one had some issues. We were gonna run into potentially some cemeteries and some residences. And so that was the one option. Then we looked to the west, and that's going along US 431 and just traveling down where there's existing, some distribution lines along the roadway. But that one turned out to be almost, I think it was over 100 landowners and 257 or 59 parcels. So it just turned out to be, that would be just very difficult to, as well as we were gonna be closer to homes along the way. So that's why when we looked at the 3 alternatives, the one that we selected as our preferred was about 3 miles shorter and did not have those issues.
And then based on the second data request, item 15, there was a question about the 2 alternate lines. Now they have a different start point within the project site for the solar generation facility. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that was, in the response, I believe it was stated that it was based on the location of the substation in that case?
It was.
And so the proposed line is based on a substation located on the southern portion of the project site, and the other 2 are more northern on the site. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Has there been any proposed alternate routes based on the new substation location to the south of the project that you're aware of?
No, we did not. I mean, we had looked at the original one, and that's, the reason they were up north was we ended up with a new parcel that was, added to the project at the south end. And so for that reason, we kind of moved the substation to the south. So it ended up making the transmission line about 1 mile shorter. So that's why it shifted to the south.
Okay. How has the presence of potential karst features been accounted for in the routing of the transmission line or the planning for the construction?
It just sort of, at this stage, it was more of just a true desktop, not really anything official. It was just that would be further studies, for any pole locations. There'd be some geotech done at those locations, and if needed, they would be shifted.
Okay. And those the additional, when do you anticipate the additional studies would take place for the terrain?
Between now and sort of final design.
In the first request for information in response to it, item 8, there's an attachment B for the decommissioning plan, right?
Correct.
And the decommissioning plan is based on the solar generating facility, but it includes the transmission line in this case. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Can you just confirm that the entirety of the transmission line, 10.4 miles approximately, is included in that decommissioning plan?
It is. There's a line item in there, and I think it's about $3.5 million to remove all the, at this point, approximately 70 poles, the transmission lines and everything.
And can you confirm that the cost of the decommissioning of the transmission line will be borne by the applicant or whatever the company is responsible for the decommissioning?
Yes, it will.
Okay. Now, as part of the application, there was a visibility analysis included.
Correct.
There were 63 potential receptors, 2 of which were cemeteries, I believe, 61 of which were residences that were analyzed. I saw 38 are anticipated to have some visibility of the project, with 16 experiencing moderate or greater visibility. Of those 16, or really of any of those numbers, do you know how many are participating residents or people who have agreements with Lost City?
I'm trying to remember. It's about, I think it's about half. I take that back. Actually, those are all adjacent landowners.
In the analysis, it's all adjacent?
Correct.
Non-participating, non-agreements?
Correct, because the folks that are part of the project, they're anticipating being part of the project.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. In response to the first set of requests, item 6, there was a question about permits that Lost City is in the process of applying for the project. The only 2 that were listed as having been begun or completed were the solar generation case in front of the siting board and Lost City, and then this current case. Are there any updates to the permitting process or applications?
No, not at this time.
And then in response to some data requests, there was discussion about potential floodplains and some of the mitigating factors that Lost City would undertake to ensure the transmission line was appropriately designed for that. Do you know how much of the transmission line will cross floodplains based on the project map?
Based on sort of the preliminary design, there may be 2 poles. It's sort of that 1 to 3 poles may be in the floodplain. The rest, there is additional floodplains that we're crossing, but the distances, we can sort of avoid those floodplains and put the poles outside. Right now, it's just the preliminary plan, they're about 750 feet apart.
Okay. Do you know if currently in the record there are any maps depicting the floodplains in relation to the transmission line?
That I have to double check. I know there is some mapping with showing the floodplains. I'm just not sure if they've been on the same figure.
Okay. All right, that's all I have, Chair.
Okay. Let's go first to Commissioner Wood. Do you have any questions?
When the decommissioning takes place, and I'm sorry, this is my first transmission case, so I'm not sure, but do you all have to put money away, or do you have to procure a bond for the decommissioning process, or how does that work?
There's basically prior to start of construction, there'll be there's a decommissioning plan. There's a draft right now. It'll be updated prior to construction, and then reviewed every 5 years, and that includes removing all of the equipment from the transmission line. And then there is a surety bond that's in place at that same time. And then that surety bond also gets reviewed every 5 years. There could be inflation or other reasons that, the costs may go up or down, and then have to readjust it.
Is the bond something that you pay a one-time fee for, or is that an annual fee, or how does a bond work for a decommissioning plan?
My understanding it's annual fee. It's basically, you're paying for the surety bond. And it's basically, it gets adjusted as needed.
Very well, thank you.
Commissioner Regan.
Just a couple of questions. This transmission line goes through Logan County, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Did you receive a call from someone who's, I know about the cemeteries, but did you get any calls to look at things that were plotted from like the 1700s in your plan?
Oh, you mean, I know based on the earlier hearing, there was some discussion.
Yeah,
At this point, we've done just sort of, there's only been a very preliminary, historic review. Hands are a little bit tied. This is, at the moment, we're anticipating going to TVA and going through their NEPA process.
okay,
So we're not allowed to do anything, digging for like archaeological sites or anything at this time. So that'll all be done as part of the NEPA process.
okay. Just so I've just gotten a couple calls, and they're random people about, they didn't give their names, they just said that they were concerned about the transmission line, because they were looking to put a, destination area to a 1700 land plot that was plotted in the 1700s or something. So I told them probably to call you. I didn't respond, but I don't know if you've gotten those calls.
We've not received a
Not
call,
yet.
but no, they're more than welcome to call, and, if they tell us where it is, we'll look into it for them.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, and Judge Baker, did you have questions for this witness?
No, I have no questions.
Okay. So, are you involved at all in the planning of the companion case for the siting of generation that this transmission line will serve?
Yes, I am.
Okay. In that one, we had a lot of public comment, interveners. Not seeing that today or at any point in this hearing. Is there anything different about the way your company gave public notice for this case than the other one?
No, I mean, we posted it in the local paper, and, and even in the earlier ones, people saw the transmission line on some of the designs. So folks that were may have been the interveners the first time, they were aware of where the transmission line was.
And could you describe for me what your community outreach has been?
It's basically been talking to potential landowners and their neighbors, not all the neighbors, but neighbors that, we might have been looking to acquire an easement from. And then we've had discussions with the road departments in both counties, just because of, want to make sure that any concerns about, bringing equipment in or, or the construction traffic.
Yeah. Any public comment hearings?
No.
Not required necessarily for transmission, though.
No, it's not.
I noticed some information about vegetative clearing that would be required. 85 to 100 acres of trees, that's over the 10 miles.
Correct. There's about, within the right-of-ways, as they're currently right now, the easements, there's about 125 acres of forested lands.
Okay,
We're anticipating maybe 85 to 100 might need to be cleared.
okay.
The goal is to try and leave more by the repairing crossings by any of the streams and sort of narrow it down a little bit if we can.
And that's for initial construction.
Correct.
Will there be ongoing regular maintenance of the vegetation in the transmission area?
There will be. The applicant will be in charge and be responsible for maintaining it, similar to any other easement, for transmission corridors, other places.
Is there a schedule of how often that'll be cleared or a target?
No, not at this time. That will be sort of developed between now and final construction. They'll have some plans for the vegetation management.
Will that get filed along with your final plans?
Yes, it will.
Okay. And what entity will be in charge of that?
That will be the applicant. It'd be, Lost City Renewables.
Okay. Is it anticipated that ownership of this transmission line, property or the easements or leases will be transferred to another entity eventually?
At this time, it's, the company anticipates, owning it, constructing it, operating it.
Maintaining, clearing?
Correct.
And is there a publicly available phone number for folks to call if they see a tree about to fall or a dangerous issue with one of the lines?
There will be. I mean, there is the general number right now, but yes, there will be for the transmission line too. It'll be the same number.
Just post it on the website?
Mhm.
Okay. I think that's all the questions I have. Redirect?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Since this is your lead witness, I'll ask that he not be excused,
That's fine.
but you can sit down.
Thank you.
And And you may call your next one.
Yes, Madam Chair, I call Shane Kelly.
How are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Good to see you again.
Yep, good to see
Do
you.
you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Please be seated. Tell us full name and business address, please.
Yep, it's Shane Kelly, 9200 Shelbyville Road, Louisville, Kentucky, Suite 800.
Ms. Price?
Mr. Kelly, can you tell us by whom you're employed,
Yes, Stantec Consulting.
and what is your role there?
So I'm a senior biologist there.
Okay. And are you familiar with Lost City's application for a transmission line construction certificate?
Yes.
And did you sponsor materials and responses to data request in this case?
Yes.
And do you have any changes to any testimony you've previously submitted?
No.
Your Honor, this witness is available for questioning.
Okay. Staff?
All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Kelly.
Good afternoon.
So in response to the first data request, item 24, you outline a number of mitigation measures for portions of the transmission line that cross floodplains.
Yes.
So could you just expound on that a little bit and express, what concerns there would be in the floodplains and how you plan to mitigate them?
Yeah, so we're only going to have like 1 to 3 poles in the floodplains, but the design of those poles and the way they're anchored would be different. They would be deeper in the ground and have a different structure underground. So the tangent structures, which is where there's very little angle, there would be like a corrugated barrel construction, and then that foundation would be raised above the ground, and there would be earth on top of it to keep water from pooling directly on the foundation and deteriorating the poles more quickly. And then the angle or end poles that have an angle on them and they're not part of the tangent, kind of straight line transmission line, they would have a cast in place concrete foundation. They would also be placed deeper underground and would have that mound on top of the earth, on top of the structure to keep water off of it and slough water off. So there would be some fill in the floodplain as a part of those poles.
And then these are steel poles, correct? All of
Yes,
them?
steel monopoles.
Okay. And then what is your assessment of how any vegetative clearing could potentially affect floodplains or maybe increasing that risk in other areas?
We would obtain a floodplain permit with a no-rise certificate. So we would do all the mitigation measures that are typical and required. So erosion, matting, that sort of thing. Soil or temporary seeding on top of that as well. So if we follow all those BMPs, there shouldn't be much risk there.
Okay. And then kind of following a similar line of questioning from Mr. Marcheterre on the variance issue, you've been to the site, reviewed materials. Based on your experience, do you anticipate any potential variance or a likelihood of necessary variance when you actually get to construction?
No, I think the likelihood is low just because we're off alignment from any roads or any kind of other potential things that could make us move the D-line.
And then at this stage, do you have any plans for, construction timelines, time windows for doing construction, and what that process will look like?
I don't have. I know that'd be up to the EPC. I'm not 100% sure. I think we did include a timeline in the RFI, though. I can't remember exactly which number that is. But we could provide that in more detail if needed.
All right, that's all the questions I have, Chair.
Okay. Commissioner Wood.
I have any questions?
Okay. Commissioner Regan.
I don't have any.
Okay. And Judge Baker, do you have any questions for this witness?
No questions.
Okay. Is there any issue with noise when you're doing this type of construction?
No, I mean, it's much less than a solar farm that we're typically talking about. You know, installing the poles, there's construction to clear vegetation, that sort of thing, but compared to all the pile driving on a solar farm, it's relatively minimal.
I think that probably is all that I have then. Any redirect?
Nothing for this witness.
Okay, any reason this witness couldn't be excused?
No, Chair.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you all.
And you may call your next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We would call David Kraus.
And this was a substitution, right?
Yes, Madam Chair. Sean Joshi was initially slated and he was traveling, so Mr. Kraus is filling in.
Gotcha. And anything that was, Mr. Joshi was gonna do has been adopted and,
Correct.
okay, I'll let you cover that in your direct though. Please raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Please have a seat. Tell us your full name and your business address, please.
My name is David Kraus. I'm the Vice President of Engineering for Sunrise Renewables, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Copenhagen Infrastructure Partners.
Got it, counsel.
Good afternoon, Mr. Kraus. Will you please state your title at Sunrise Renewables?
That's Vice President of Engineering for Sunrise Renewables.
Thank you. And are you familiar with Lost City's application for a construction certificate for a transmission line?
Peripherally, I've been more involved in the actual solar array engineering development.
Okay. And as we just discussed with Chair Hatton, Sean Joshi had sponsored materials as part of Lost City's application in this matter. Do you adopt the materials that he sponsored in this case?
I do.
And do you have any changes to those materials?
No.
Chair Hatton, this witness is available for questioning.
I have no questions, Chair, for this
No
witness.
questions? You sure?
No questions.
Great.
I don't.
All right. And finally, Judge Baker, do you have any questions for this witness?
No questions.
Okay. All right. Any reason this witness couldn't be, oh. Any reason, I don't imagine you have redirects and there wasn't any cross.
No, we're good.
Any reason this witness couldn't be excused?
No, Chair.
All right. Thank you, sir. You're
Thank you.
excused. And I can go ahead and, that was your final witness, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
So
it is.
I can go ahead and excuse your lead witness as well. And is that your case?
That is, Madam Chair.
Anything further, staff?
No, Chair.
Right. All right then. Don't have any exhibits to deal with. Any motions at this time? All right. And let's see, a final order needs to be out by October 8th, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Do you anticipate having any post-hearing data requests?
I don't believe so. If I do, it'll be very few.
Okay. If you do, could you have those out by the 24th?
I could.
And that's quick.
Yes.
It's 2 days from now, but, okay. And if he gets them, if he has any and gets those to you by the 24th, could you get them answered by the 29th?
That should be fine.
Okay. If anyone desires to do a brief, and there's only one party here that might, and if you had a desire to do a brief in this case, September 29th is when it would be due.
Thank you. And Chair Hatton, I think Mr. Marcheterre pointed out that the construction timeline that's in the materials is 5 to 6 months. So we'd be happy to do a post-hearing data request to formally state that, but 5 to 6 months.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't know of anything further unless anyone else does.